I'm going to introduce the next speaker. I didn't get a bio or anything, but I think I've known her for a little while and able to adequately do that. Celia Jackson is someone I've gotten to know over the last couple of years. I know from her background she's been a practicing attorney. I think she was a defense attorney for a period of time in Milwaukee, and more recently was part of Governor Doyle's cabinet staff. But where I know her from is just being a passionate person in our community advocating for justice issues. She came on board on our implementation team. Didn't know her at the time. I think she was recommended by one of our EOC Commission members, and clearly took the leadership role with that task force, worked with us for over a year on that. And when we got to the point of having our 80 recommendations and wanting to move forward from there, she was the logical choice to lead the implementation team. So I'm really proud to introduce Celia Jackson, and kind of sorry she might be kind of leaving us soon, but Celia.
Good morning. You know what he didn't tell you is when he first met me, he really didn't like me too much. So, but that's all right. He's not the only one. That means you know you're doing stuff when you're rubbing folks the wrong way. So I want to say that it is a pleasure to be here this morning and to talk to you. I'm going to share a little bit of this segment with my co-chair of the implementation team, Dr. Al Felice, simply because it's just important really to share the spotlight and make sure that folks get out there and get comfortable with some of the work that we're doing. I want to kind of start out giving a little bit of a backdrop of how all of this came to be. I mean, I think you've heard a little bit from County Exec Kathleen Falk, and where she took this initiative to go ahead and appoint the task force. But for us, and it goes way back, but really I think a lot of it stems from that report that was done on the state level, that when Governor Doyle did the commission, which Chief Ray was one of the co-chairs, that ultimately kind of kick-started some of this work that we're actually doing now. And so I really do want to acknowledge the county exec, Kathleen Falk, because she really took the bull by the horns, and we had this incredible task force of people, a wide range of folks that were doing criminal justice work to start out, and a few of them are here. I want to make sure that I acknowledge and recognize them. We had a number of big wigs on the task force, a lot of people who were in high positions. We had Judge O'Brien, and I see Sister Esther Heffernan from Edgewood College, and Colleen Butler. We had Captain Tischer, we had Jerome Dillard, we had, who else? Oh yes, and our state public defender, Catherine Dorrell. All that were part of that. And I ended up getting on the task force because it really probably wasn't, it was a good fit because I've done a lot of criminal law practice in the course of my career, but I really was kind of a transplant from Milwaukee coming to Madison, having been part of the Doyle administration. But it was my old good friend, Yolanda Woodard, who is the chair of the OEO, the Dane County Equal Opportunity Commission, who actually put the bug in my ear to step forward. And so she probably knew what she was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing when I agreed to actually get on the task force, because it turned out to be really a lot of hard work. We had a lot of challenges on that task force. We had representation from all aspects of the criminal justice system, those people that I've mentioned, but also the Department of Corrections, as well as the Madison Police Department. Deputy Chief Gaber was on that task force, and there were actually some other judges that were on the task force. It was a large group of people, and we had to engage in the twist the push and the shove in order to come up with the recommendations that we ultimately did. And what we attempted to try to do is we came up with recommendations that really spanned the entire criminal justice system, from before, on the street with the police officers, pre-arrest, all the way up to sentencing that takes place in the courts. And we divided ourselves up into 5 small groups, and we came back and we came forth with these 80 recommendations. Those of you who haven't seen the report, it is available on the Office of Equal Opportunity Commission website, and so you could download it. It is very lengthy, and what we attempted to do, because we knew it was so lengthy and there was so much that was involved, we did identify right in the beginning of that report 10 recommendations that we felt were our top priorities, that we knew required funding, but we also knew the challenge that we were facing in these economic times, that, you know, the mantra would be, we don't really have any money to do these things. And so we know that, so we identified 10 things that were in the report that we felt that didn't really require money, but that what those things require is a change of heart, and they require people to really start looking at things a little bit differently and approaching them a lot differently. And so I had a PowerPoint, and I'm not going to go through all of those, but I think I'm going to turn it over to Al, because I want him to talk a little bit about the work that we did on the implementation team. We got those recommendations passed by the county board. We got an implementation team approved not only by the county board but also by the City of Madison Common Council. So we had the full support behind us. But we began our work as the implementation team about 10 months ago. And so we've had a really big charge in trying to go forward and getting these things implemented. And so I'm going to ask Al to step up and talk a little bit about the work that we've done on the implementation team, and I'll come back and just kind of wrap it up. And I think that we want to make sure we note all of the people from the implementation team that are in the room today. So, Al?
Good morning, good morning. I'm hoping you guys could hear me here from this angle. That's okay? I was going to stick to the script and be all good, but it put a mic in front of me. That's not good for an island guy. That's their fault. So I want to thank my mom. No. I come to this issue from a very different perspective. I'm a psychologist. I work with cultures. I understand how cultures move in, move out, move up, move in between, and how generations shift. So my perspective is, as you would understand, very different from those at the table. So as I say that, I want to give you some basic understanding from my perspective. If you've ever attempted to fly a plane and change the tires in midair, that's what you're looking at. It's a challenge of moving forward while fixing what's going on bad inside of it. That brings natural defensiveness. None of you wants me to walk in your house and say, you got some problems in your house. The first thing is, excuse me, who are you? So as much as I truly applaud everything that's been done, there's a reality that we still have the disparity. So I can play the music on this side, but stuff's rotting still. But at the same time, we must understand that we have to work together to deal with it, because the greater I challenge is the greater defensiveness that will occur. Make sense? All right. No big deal. No big words. We on that. What have we done? We also have, because Dane County is a very attractive place, we have people who filter in to Dane County. We attract. And as we attract, the dynamics of the community shifts as we attract more populations into the community. So we're never quite dealing with the same issue at the same time. What have we done? In the 9 months that we've been together, as Kathleen so eloquently placed, we've moved and supported the YWCA to continue their work, $25,000 towards the driver license recovery. It's great. We've been successful in increasing the staffing to support some reduction efforts. The passage of a funding for subcontracted grant writer that we've been able to do. We have increased communication with our criminal justice advocates and stakeholders. Kathleen had advised, suggested, she couldn't demand, she didn't have that power, that 1% of each of our stakeholders' budgets be placed towards this effort. That's not going to happen because you just ask it. Okay? Let's be honest. So we have to work on this and what's already there to move it forward. So what do we have to do still? We have to raise the awareness. We have to raise our own awareness as a task force. This is not a one-angled challenge. It is an elephant that you have to see from all sides. If you look at the elephant from this front and you're blind and you probably think it's a tree or holes, this is not one-dimensional. So as the task force itself, we continue learning about the challenges that are affecting the community. Also, we have to educate our community. And our community is not just our stakeholders, but it's the people. Understand, honestly, very quickly, that this whole thing, there's a conceptualization of safety that we share in. It's politically savvy and financially beneficial. When you think of safety and you see it on the television, I'm going to keep you safe, or somebody's not keeping you safe, you have a picture of what unsafe is in your mind. And if we do not shift our voting public's conceptualization of safety in our community, we will be right here. Because if my mind is black and brown people are unsafe, please lock them up. Please. But if you recognize that when you lock up one male, that he probably has 3 children, and they enter our judicial system between 13 and 14, you want to help explain safe to me now? So we thank you for being here, but we cannot do this with you just being here. We need you to bring your friends. We need you to keep us on task. We need you to keep the noises going. I don't want you to wear placards yet, but wait, I might call for that soon.
Okay, I just want to close out with a couple of things. Okay, so I forgot my friend Jerome Dillard sitting over there. He was on our task force. So Jerome, I want to give you a shout out. And I want to also give a shout out to my co-chair, Lori Malatawu, who's not here today. But, you know, she and I became BFFs during the course of this process because we spent so much time together in trying to make sure that it actually got accomplished. So I certainly, know that she had a significant role in the production of the report that you have in front of you. And then there are a number of members of the implementation team that are here, and I'd ask for people to kind of raise their hands. We've got Barbara McKinney over here, Colleen Butler, Lucia Nunez, got my notes here. Pastor G is over here, Richard Harris, and of course, Dr. Felice. They've all really been great, and there are a couple of other members of that committee. So we're just really glad, and we really do need community support in the work that we're doing. So I want to just leave you with this. I'm going to invite you in how to be today, because I think it's really important that we be a certain way in engaging in this dialogue and the conversation. Today, we need to not only engage in deep listening, but we need to stretch ourselves. We need to get outside of our comfort zone. We've been socialized in a way that bad behavior requires more punitive measures. We continue to make punishments more severe. We continue to make policies that, make it really very difficult. We can point to a whole host of things, truth in sentencing, 3 strikes you're out, all kinds of things that make it more punitive for people who violate offenses. And in this country, and many of us believe this is the greatest country to live in, and we enjoy many freedoms, but we penalize people so extensively in this country and are leading the world, or certainly in the top 10 and leading the world in putting people behind bars and incarcerating them. No, we don't engage in brutality like cutting off their hands or cutting off their fingers, but we have a substantial number of people who are locked up and that don't enjoy the freedoms. And while we're so busy locking people up, we're really not spending enough time looking at what the root causes are. It's the proverbial, all of the babies are coming down at the end of the river and we're trying to save them one at a time, but nobody's at the head of the river looking to see what actually is causing them to be in the river in the first place. I was last night at a state bar event on operating under the influence, and we were talking about how punitive the measures have become. I tell you, now I don't know if people in the room really know, but if people really knew in the room what the penalties are and what the implications are if you get caught drinking and driving, I tell you, you would be afraid to have a drink and get behind the wheel of a car. They have become really quite severe in many ways, and I don't think that people really understand that. And so we continue to exercise in that way in being more punitive. I believe we need a shift. We need a shift in the paradigm and how we deal with these things. We believe that being tough is a good thing, and we've certainly seen it. Every time an election comes around, we see the ads where being tough is the way to go, putting fear in people in an effort to be able to secure a position where you have a major impact on people's lives. I invite you today to look for ways to be engaged with our criminal justice leaders on how to make this shift. It requires a desire to do so, and it also really requires a commitment. It also requires us to step in a place called the unknown. There's this thing about what we know and then what we don't know. And there's a whole lot of stuff that we don't know, but I venture to say there's a lot of stuff that we don't know that we don't know. And so we really need to allow ourselves permission to step in the gap and look to see how we might be able to take this on a little bit more authentically and a little bit more deep-rootedly, because I'm telling you, the surface stuff that we are doing, it is not working. It truly is not working. Now, I'm a big believer of dialogue. I'm a big believer in conversation, and I'm a big believer of, transforming hearts. And I'd like to leave you today with a couple of quotes that really work for me, and I think that, we'll have an opportunity to do this a little bit more later, but I think that they just really speak loud to me, and I'd just like to share them with you. And the first one is from Peg Weekly, who says, "We can change the world if we start listening to one another with simple, honest, human conversation. Not mediation, not negotiation, not problem solving, not debate or public meetings. Simple, truthful conversation where we each have a chance to be heard." We don't really do that very well all the time. And we kind of talk past one another. We kind of out-talk one another. We don't really listen deeply for what is underneath. And I invite people to really do that today. And a quote that's in our report from, we went through a book and tried to put in a lot of quotes in the in the report just to kind of get people to start to think about things. And one of them from a gentleman named Christopher Edley is, each generation must decide whether to dig defensive trenches or build bridges. And each of us must choose whether to participate in that decision or just let others decide for us and our children. I invite you today to really start being engaged in the building bridges, not on the surface, but really in a very deep and profound way, because I tell you, we really have to take this on in a different way. Otherwise, as Dr. Felice says, we will be where we are. And you know, when you feel like you're on that proverbial treadmill and you just keep going round and round and round, and we can all cite the situations where we keep going round and round and we haven't really made any difference. The difference is us. And given 2011, given Egypt, given Madison, Wisconsin, we know we've got collective energy and collective power to be able to change the paradigm we're in. So I urge you all to really be present today and be with us in this conversation today in that way. Thank you.